righty. Hey, okay, give us a hand. All right, now, people, how many are like being a slave? No, you don't like being in debt. No. Well, there's a way around it, but you gotta negotiate your time, what you're paying, and then so you have some extra what? Money. Then you stash it aside, and it's called your storehouse. It's between you and God. Now, God will bless that if you are blind. See, people say, well, God, why doesn't God protect me? Well, God, you're not in God's household. When people aren't in God's household, I mean, when someone stays in my house, I'm responsible for them. If they're somewhere else, I'm not responsible for them. If they're in my house, I'm responsible. When you're in the house of God, that means your purposes, your orientation, your priorities are God's. And in doing so, everything you do is to be with God. So as a result, people go, well, I love God with all my heart, soul, mind, and strength. Do you understand what that means? That means everything you say, everything you do is based on the Scriptures. And that's kind of rough for people to say, well, I don't want to do all of it. Well, then, if your employer says, the person you're employing says, well, I don't want to do everything you told me to do. Well, then what's the answer? Well, then you don't want to get paid for doing it, right? You only get paid for what you do. So God can only work with us according to the level that we commit to Him. So the more I give for God, the more God can bless it and protect it, because it belongs to who? To Him, not me. See, from the Greek and Romans point of view, everything there is mine, and that person has it, well, I'll take from him, and now it's mine too. And it's all mine, mine, mine. And that's not the way things work. If it belongs to God, and it's not yours, it belongs to God, now God is going to protect it. That's the difference. All right, so what do? Well, you find a way to get some money, and you accumulate, just like the slaves did in Roman time, so they can buy their freedom. They would find some way to cut corners so they had some money, and then if they used that money, they would pay it back with interest. But they kept growing it, and that's what they used. And everything else they did, everything they paid, everything, but this kept growing. That's your freedom. To show you how much you're in debt, if the banks closed down tomorrow, how would you survive? In other words, you're slaves to the what? You can't do anything. You can't buy anything. You can't do anything without them. So the banks do have slaves. They're the people. So the object here is to get out of slavery and manage your own funds. Learn how to invest, learn how to multiply what you have, and God will help. But you got to do it God's way. So storehouse is money that you don't allow anyone else. You're taking personal responsibility, because we put money in the bank and let them handle it. And they do. That's why they have this big, beautiful buildings. Somebody has to pay for it. Why not you? And they said, well, they have to. Is there a box there that has your name on it, that has your money in it? No. So why can't you handle your own? They don't do anything. It's amazing how that works. You get it paid. It's like, well, how can that be? Don't worry. God will show you how. It's doing it God's way, because then God will work with you. There's several others besides her who are doing this, and they're totally free. One person was $150,000 in debt, with interest being paid at 17%. And they were really in deep shit. And they came to me and said, what do I do? I said, well, you start with a storehouse. And then you work toward where you could tithe. And then you'd be able to see God will bring forth the increase. And that's what the word says in Malachi. That He'll open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing, there will not be room enough to what? Receive it. So you have to do it God's way for God to be able to get involved. You do it your own way, then you're responsible. There's no one to cry to. Do it God's way, you get it all. So people say, what happens if someone breaks in and steals my money that I'm protecting or I'm taking care of? Well, that's stucky. Then the question is, was it really for God? That's the question. If it was for God, then God's going to protect it. So you have to go to God on how to do this, and God will bring people to you and help you understand how to work it. How many like the idea of being free? Right? So the first, like she talks about, if you're in charge of your life, you recognize God, and then you pay yourself first. Before you pay the Dingwa banks and the credit cards, you pay yourself what? First. That's your payment to you. And this is where 10% goes to God, 10% goes to your storehouse, and you live off the 80%. Got it? You need to get free from the banks, unless you really like being a bank slave. By the way, they're not going to cut down your interest rates. They're going to continue to go higher. Just because they have. Because they can. What are you going to do if they raise your interest rates? What are you going to do? Say no? So, does God, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you what? Free. The more the word you know and apply, the more your freedom you have in your life, in your mind, in your heart, in your soul, in everything you do. You're not, nobody has claim on you. Nobody. That's why the word says, owe no man anything. Okay. So you're all blessed by that. It makes sense to you. Okay, cool. All right, so now we move into the next section that's really intense, and I really put a lot of effort in this. I'm trying to get it as simple as I possibly can. The purpose of the Word of God concerning worship and what? Service. And this is really difficult, but I'm going to do my best to make sure it's simple. Because in our culture, it's like, what? But in the biblical culture, it's everything. And even today, when you meet people from the East, they're still doing it. You walk over, you see a liquor store, or you see a market, and they own it. They're buying. People group together. They put the money together. They buy a market. They buy a store. But not us. We don't do that. We're Greeks and Romans, right? Okay, whatever. So now let's move into understand. From our point of view, it looks one way. From this side of the culture, it looks this way, right? It's a 9. This side looks at it as a 6. The question is, how does God look at it? So we have to understand why we're seeing it this way, how the other side is seeing it, and now we can make the proper decision of what is this that we're looking at. So now let's look at another one. Let's look at the word king. We have kings, right? All Western Europe has what? Kings. The king of Germany, the king of England, the king of... And we talk about... But when we get to the East, it's not like that at all. We call them kings, but were they kings? We're using the same word, but do we mean the same thing? So we have to be careful about this word. So let's review it from the Greek and Romans, like Caesar was the emperor, the king. And what does that mean? What is he? Well, in our culture, when you talk about a king, you have to, in the Greek and Roman, you have to embody all the Greek and Roman gods. So, do you have to have sexual prowess? Yes. Do you have to be good looking? Yes, because all the gods are good looking. Everything, if you're going to be a leader, you have to have you got to be talented, because you have to have skill writing poetry, you have to play a musical instrument. Everything that gods represent, you got to be good in love and romance. You got to be, everything that is the Greek gods has to be personified in you. That's why there's tremendous amount of, a person that's a ruler of the Greek and Roman culture has to have all the gifts of the gods. Zeus will give you the ability to lead. Mars will give you the ability to go to combat. And you praise these gods and you follow their example. So so everything you see of these guys, the Greek and Romans, gods, because gods are what? Perfect. And if you're going to be a ruler, you have to be what? Perfect. You have to be like the gods. See, we want to know I want to know, what's your God? Well, you tell me what you do, and I'll tell you what your God is. I don't care what name you put on him. I don't care what label you use. What is your God? Because you have a God, and you're mimicking that God. That's what everybody's doing. They have a God, and they're mimicking that God. So we got to understand that leadership everybody, a good leader, has to have all the attributes of the gods. And they do. So, are they great lovers? Are they great romantics? Do they have sexual prowess? All these things that they're the Greek gods we recognize, and that must be a leader. And that's what's expected. When we find out that the leader has had sex with so many people, it's like, no big deal, it's okay. He's the leader, he's the king. He's just acting like Jupiter. So, or he's very aggressive in war, well, he's acting like Mars. So whenever we play this game, we're mimicking the gods, and we expect the leaders to have every attribute of those gods. So when you're king, it doesn't matter what the laws are, you get rid of them. You have new laws. The laws are at the whim of the command of the captain, the king. He will sit there and say, well, I don't like those laws, get rid of them. Remember? Because a bad law, if it doesn't agree with him, he gets rid of it. He himself answers to no law. And he requires to be what? Worshipped. Movie stars, athletes, everybody wants to be worshipped. Oh, I should walk around, everybody should be blowing me kisses and praising me and tell me how wonderful I am. Well, that kind of crap, that's a Greek and Roman concept. Now on this side, it's really different. This side has got from Cyrus to Darius, right? This is before Rome, before Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great conquered, right, and forced them to be like the Greeks and Romans. From Cyrus to Darius, judged his people according to the laws of the God his people worshipped and served. Well, the only problem was the Greeks they didn't have any laws. There was no laws. Zeus didn't have any laws. Zeus, Jupiter, they didn't have any laws. There were laws. Whoever's in charge, however they feel. So as a result, when Cyrus asked them, or Darius even asked them, give me your laws, they're like, laws? And they would, no, then you can't live in my area. So what happened was they would make the laws, but then the next generation would say, we didn't sign those laws. And so like, oh boy. But from Cyrus to Darius, judged his people according to the laws of the God of his people worshipped and served. So this is why when you look at your Bible, you ever seen a Hebrew Bible? Those strange characters? They're called what? Chaldean? Why? Because when Babylon took Israel and brought them back there, he said, okay, now give me your laws. And most of the laws were oral. They just spoke it, and they said, no. You write it down. If it wasn't for Nebuchadnezzar, there would never have been a Bible. That's why Nebuchadnezzar was the head. Because the people would not live by the word, so when they got conquered, and he would make them live by their word. So he said, okay, write your laws, and I will hold you to the laws of your God. And it took a long time, but they wrote them all out. And then he held them. He had a satrap attached to the Jews, made sure you obeyed. So if it wasn't for Babylon, Nebuchadnezzar, we would never have the Jewish Bible. Isn't that interesting? So if someone said to you right now, give me your laws and I will hold you accountable to your laws, how would you write them? If you had to write your own laws, how would you write them? You ever wonder about that? So what I did when I first started out is I wanted to understand how God does these things, so I wrote laws for myself. And what's hard? Write your laws, then try and keep your own laws. Whoa, that's intense. I'd much rather do it God's way. If you make laws, I guarantee within 24 hours you're going to break your own laws. Because you don't understand your own self. I might say, all right, in this New Year's, I'll make a New Year's resolution, I'm going to do this and this and this. And guess what? You don't do it. How many have ever kept a New Year's resolution? No. So don't tell me you could write your own laws. It ain't going to happen. All right. Each satrap, that's the judge. All right? When Cyrus and Darius set rulers over the people to judge them according to their laws, right? He said that set judges from the scriptures of the people they oversaw. That was the scripture. Here's the laws we have. All right? And they review them and say, okay, what about this? What about this? What about this? And then they had to write the laws then. And then he would make sure that they understood the law. This is the law you live under. And we're going to make sure you adhere to it. That's intense, isn't it? So, rulers are to bring people under the blessings of God through the laws of God. They are to ensure the laws are what? Taught and what? Followed. That's intense. That's all from Cyrus to Darius. So what is this? Judged, taught, followed. You see that? That has nothing to do with this. Doesn't even line up. It doesn't. They're not even similar. So everything on this side refers to judge, to God, who is the judge of the earth. Remember that? The Bible talks about God being the judge. Jesus says, if I judge, I judge. I don't judge no man, but if I do judge, whoo-hoo, it's right. That's because everything in the Bible, and you see books of judges, and then Samuel was a prophet and a judge. So all this is to be a spokesman and a judge. So, and to teach and to do. And teach others so that they do, by your example. You are not to teach and not do. You cannot teach and not do. You have to teach and do and then instruct others. And that's not easy. But that's what is required on this side. That's why they always, anyone from there would wind up being extraordinary on the Greek and Roman side once they were there. Anything you put in their hands, just like Joseph. They put in Joseph's hands, what happened? He took charge of it. Same thing with Joseph, same thing with Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These were all what? Judges, administrators. All right. So let's say you don't want to listen to any rules. Just let it be for all. Okay. So let's use an example. Okay. A referee is one who's supposed to make sure things what? Go right. Right? They are going to the laws. But what happens if there is no laws? Then what's the referee there for? He's just what? An ornament? So let's look at this. This is professional wrestling, right? How many rules are there? So there's a guy standing up on top. There's the referee. What are you doing? He's an idiot. There's no rule. Where's you can jump off of this onto your opponent? What rule says that? And what does he do? Nothing. Just waves his hand. They even punch the referees in LA. This guy's taking the guy, spinning him around and throwing him out into the audience. What the hell is that? And then here's a guy jumping up in the air. And how is that wrestling? It's entertainment. Now here's the limit. There's no what? No rules, no laws, and the referee is an absolute idiot. Yes? He's only there as decoration. He does absolutely nothing. Now let's look at Olympic wrestling. There's the judges. They're watching. That's real wrestling, not this crap. Why? Because there's what? Rules, procedures that have to be followed. This is false. This is joke. This is the real deal. You don't see this guy going, ha ha, wearing everything you want to wear, you want to wear jeans. And it's like, come on, standard, there's standards, there's rules, the laws. Is that making sense? So, we'll not go there. Anyway, what's the difference? Is there laws? No. Is there laws? Yes. Is there rules? No. Is there rules? Yes. Are there Really? Referees? No, they're decorations. Yeah. But this side are the referees. Damn straight there are. They're all around here. One mistake, it's over. These will go down in history. I don't know about this side. All right, do you see that? Greeks and Romans love what? Entertainment. When we're talking about a referee, his life is not easy. Why? Well, he's a judge. Did the guy do it right or did he do it wrong? He does not take what? Can you imagine a football game and the judge is watching his favorite team lose? So what happens is he catches the ball and he makes a touchdown for the other side. Everybody would lose it. They would hang him. He's not to take what? Sides. Reviews all evidence and testimonies with verification. Why do you have a Bible? Because God wants you to be what? Judges and spokesmen for Him to instruct and teach. Judgments are done according to the rules and not what? People sit there and say, well, I know that's what the Word of God says, but. Why are you saying but? I don't care what you feel. Doesn't make any difference what you feel. You got the rule book. You're the judges. That's what you got the book for. The judge is called on to know and serve the rule book or laws, what? Only. Man shall not live by bread alone, but what? Every word of God. You're to be a what? A judge. And you're to teach and instruct others. By you being the first what? Example. The judge stands approved by his commitment to the book and no one else. Oh, except the author. Right? He will not tolerate intimidation or threats. You ever seen a referee stand there and the big athlete, you know, rah, 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 and he just stands there and goes, what? And the guy goes, rah, 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 rah. Judges know the rules. You want to be kicked out of the game in forever? The referee can do that. The judge's decision is what? Final. It's in line with the book. When that hammer goes down, it's over. These gentlemen are used to living by the scriptures of their God. In order to be in a Roman legion, he has to speak Latin. He has to speak the languages of Anatolia, which is that what we call Turkey today, which was several countries. He had to speak Aramaic, read and write in Greek, read and write in Latin. The Romans only wrote in Latin. They had to know at least 5 languages. They had to be able to read and write in all 5. You don't see any of the Caesars, any of the centurions that you see in the time of Christ. He's speaking to Jesus in Aramaic, because Jesus would never speak Latin. He's speaking to Jesus in Aramaic. So is he a Roman from Italy, or is he a Roman from Caesarea? A Syrian. See what I'm saying? He spoke Aramaic. When you see Paul talk to him, Paul is talking to one. They're speaking what? They could be speaking Latin, but they didn't want anyone else to hear. So more than likely they were speaking a language that was not what everybody else was speaking. That's when Paul was speaking to us, because he came in and interfered from them killing Paul. And understand, there's no policemen during the Roman times. Policemen, there's no sheriffs, there's none of that. There's only centurions, there's only the soldiers. So today we'd have a policeman knock at your door, or we'd have a sheriff knock at your door, or if you're driving too fast, the police will pull you over, right? Highway patrolman. There's only one in Rome. That's the guy. He is the judge. He is the jury. He is also the executioner. So when you read in the Gospels, John the Baptist baptizing Roman soldiers, I assure you they went from Rome. Because he would not be speaking Latin. So they ask him a question, he responds. It's Aramaic, which is the language of that whole area, including Anatolia, which is what we call Asia Minor. So these guys all became dominant players. Let me see how you are, and I can tell which God you support. If you say you're going to do something and you don't, then you're on this side. All the Greek Roman gods lie. So if the gods do, the gods lie. Can leadership lie? Yeah. Can the king lie? Can the emperor lie? Sure. Because the gods do. You can tell whose God someone has by how they act. And you can tell which God they are, too. The guy come over there, he's totally pugnacious. Pugnacious, not pugnacious, pugnacious. Pugnacious means he always starts a fight. He always wants to start a fight. Well, what God is he worshiping? Mars. Mars always wants to start a what? A war, a fight. So everybody we're growing up on this side, and we are for or supporting any one of the gods on this side. But one thing all the gods do is they all lie. So if the gods can lie, then we can lie too. And it's okay. On this side, can God lie? No, God cannot lie. On this side, all Greek and Romans are what? Capricious. They do things on the spur of the moment. They're just like, I feel like doing this, and they do it. They don't think, they just respond. And somehow that's awesome. They got inspiration. They're doing something, I gotta go. I'm off. Huh? Spontaneously, just, let's go do this and just do it. Who cares? And all the gods are that way. So if you're going to be doing something like, I changed my mind. I'm going to do this instead. I'm going to do this instead. Well, you didn't finish this. It's okay. I'm going to do this. That's capricious. Just instant change. Instant move. On this side, God cannot what? And those who follow this God, whom they emulate, guess what? They can't lie, and they can't change. The way they are is the way they always are. They're terrible actors. They can't act. Over here, everybody's a good actor. It's funny to watch the gods deceive each other and lie to each other and cheat each other on this side. And if the gods do that, do the people do it? Yes. Whatever the person's God is, that's what they do. All Greeks and Roman gods steal. They steal from each other. They steal from man. That's what they do. All right, how about on this side? God gives. We lose the gift through disloyalty or bad what? Stewardship. God doesn't take it away. We lose it. All right. This is a... Oh, it didn't. It screwed up the text. Anyway. Theo ek machinis. All right? In Latin, it's deus ex machina. You know what this means? That for no reason, God comes out and does something because he saves the day. He just comes down and saves the day. It's called deus ex machina, right? Which doesn't make sense. It's God from, it doesn't translate, it comes like. But what it is, there's no way out, there's no way, and then God comes down and saves you. And it could be Zeus, it could be Neptune, it could be Hera, it could be any one of the gods. So if one won't listen to you, call on the next one. They won't listen to you, call on another one. You got several to choose from. And then one can come down and he will save you, right? So that's deus ex machina, or theos ex machinis. All right, how about on this side? God will not break his laws, but will fulfill what he has promised. So if he didn't promise it, I don't care how bad your situation is, you're in. God ain't coming through. A lot of times people want God to, well, God do something. God will not break his word. If he says what he's going to do, he'll do. But if he doesn't say it, you can't force him, you can't blackmail. By the way, the gods on here, they can be blackmailed. You can bribe them. Over here, you ain't bribing God at all. You can sit there and say, okay, Zeus, I did this for you, now here's what you're going to do for me. God, you don't, that doesn't work over here. God has a promise, he has a commitment, you're either in that commitment or you're out. Just like if you were an employee. So these people basically ran the show. Everything was put in their hands and it ran perfectly. Without them, there would not have been a Rome. It would have destroyed itself. Before 3rd century, Eastern Roman citizens occupied most of the Roman officials and military officer positions. They ran everything because the Greeks and Romans just couldn't do it. They got to be the most powerful, most successful, and because they were the most persecuted. And as the persecution progressed, the Christians, and there were several other groups, they were persecuted, their goods were stolen because people were broke, and they looked at them and said, well, you got money, and they would take it from them. Because remember, the gods can steal, so therefore the people would. The Jews, same way. People were broke, they'd look at the Jews, you got money, they'd kill the Jews, take their money. It's the way it worked. So most people left Western and went to the Eastern side and stayed there. So let's look at how a relationship between the gods, you understand, this is our gods. This is the way we may say we don't, but our actions dictate we do. So here we go. How is the relationship of a person to his gods? On this side, we have Saturnus. All right, now Saturnus, to make sure he kept his power and authority, ate his children. Not only is it infanticide, but also cannibalism. So he's a really nice God. All right. On the other side, because you don't want your children rising up and taking away your power. So he lunched out. Okay. So he's the bad guy, right? He's the enemy of Zeus. Or Jupiter. That's Jupiter. Saturn and Jupiter. Now there's a whole bunch of gods in between. They go from a spectrum from this side, and there's a spectrum all the way to the dark side, right? So this is the light side, then there's a whole bunch of other gods to the dark side, right? Now, what about, so they're independent, he's independent, and so are you. So all you got to do is acknowledge them. Blow them a kiss, praise Zeus, praise Jupiter, praise Saturn, praise Athena, praise Venus, you know what I'm saying? So long as you say that and you act a certain way, blowing kisses, crossing yourself, whatever you want to do, you know, marca terminus, that's okay. You can do that, but you see, there's no relationship here. Only partnerships. And if Zeus won't listen to you, then talk to Saturn. And you see that today with people who call themselves Christian. Well, I asked God, so now I'm going to ask Satan. Where did they get this from? That's this. because it's a partnership, and that's called bullshit. But that's how we do. We want to have, because we're equal to them. Because if you read the Odyssey, the Iliad, that you can outfox them. You can bribe them. You can get them to fight against each other. So, people did. How about on the eastern side? Here's the difference. This is how weird this is from us. This is God, right? No, not really. Oh, God. No, I'm saying it's a symbol of God, okay? Symbol of God. It represents God here, all right? That's us. We're brown for obvious reasons, right? All right. It's brown over here too, but that's okay. All right, so that's us in symbol, and that's God, right? This is the concept of the East, which is like really cool. So what happens is you adapt. If you're going to be in service for God, you have to take His what? His thoughts, His priorities, His what? Right, you have to see from that reality, have His priorities, and the identity He gave you. And guess what? You'll change. Ding! So you change. Isn't that cool? You change. God doesn't care about the outside, He cares about the what? The inside. Now what happens? You start getting closer as you continue to grow and develop until you're up and touching. It's totally different. You don't change your thinking here. You use your conniving ways to get him to do it or get him to do it. I'll build your temple if you do this for me. Oh, okay. That's why there's so many temples. Over here, God doesn't care about your outside. He cares about your heart, your soul, and your what? Mind. That's it. Totally different. Is that making sense? You want to see it again? Okay. All right. This is brown.
Hi, brown.
It's full of brown. This represents God, right? You adapt God's thoughts and images and reality, and then as you continue to do so and act on it, what happens? Right? That's it. Weird. Where's the battle? Where's the competition? Where's the bribery? There isn't any. All you got to do is just blow them a kiss. Braid, Doesn't that work? No. Well, over here, all you got to do is bow. No. It has to do with the what? Inside. Everybody repeat after me. Inside. It's what's happening in your heart, what's happening in your soul, what's happening in what? Your mind. Is that making sense? All right. Remember this? Right? This is the path what? This is the darky side, right? Right? This is the way to quick get things, right? And that's what? Lie, cheat, steal. Remember I showed you this? How many did not see this before? Everybody saw this before? Yeah. Right? That's this side, right? Which winds up being a little plant about this big, right? Little potted plant. Over on this side, you turn into a big tree. Why? Because this is the doctrine, reproof, and what? Correction. Good. So we're going to cut this in half because we're not interested in that side. We're going to slide it over there. See? Does that make sense? Okay. Now I'm going to pull this out, right? Come on. It works on my cell phone. There we go. All right. All right. So you see that? So there's. Okay. Let's make it a little more. See it? Isn't that great? Everybody give me an applause. Yeah. All right. See, isn't that great? Did we understand what's going on? No. But that's okay. Here we go. This right here is doctrine. Wham. And that's doctrine. And that's doctrine. These are stages of growth and development. Right? So what else we got? Reproof and correction, reproof and correction, reproof and correction. You get to this layer, now you start with, you get more doctrine, you start reproof and correction. More doctrine, you reach this point which is more doctrine. This is teachings. Then you go to apply it and you need reproof or correction, right? But as you apply it, right, first of all you start with knowledge. Knowledge, that's what doctrine gives you. Knowledge. Where do you get this from? That's the doctrine. So now you begin to apply it. And as you apply it, over here, or wherever you're at in the stages, as you apply it, what do you get? Wisdom, right? Wisdom. Wisdom, wisdom. And then, so it goes knowledge, wisdom, and then what? Understanding. So as I start off here and I go bing, 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 right? Then I'm at the next what? Next level. Then I take that knowledge and I apply it, and then bing, 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 I have understanding, and all of a sudden next time I'm at the next level. You understand how this works? All right, let's make it a little easier. Does that help? All right. Now, at a certain point, you give him what? Doctrine. That's when he's now bipedal, right? And he thinks he's hot stuff, right? That's usually around 5, 6 years. Now you give him doctrine. Then he learns to really run. He learns he learns wisdom. Well, you said I could do it. Yeah, but, then he does it not the way you say, gets hurt, damaged, whatever. But that's what happened. He grows into wisdom. And then he gets what? Understanding. That's why a 12-year-old is much smarter than a 6-year-old, which is a heck of a lot smarter than a rugrat, right? Then we get to this point, ta-da! And this is exactly how the Bible's written. It takes you from here to there, and each one are different layers. And it's funny because nobody ever gets beyond this. They think they do, but they haven't. They barely make it here. And they don't have, I'm trying to give you not only knowledge, wisdom, but what? Understanding. So when you apply it, you'll know that that's not the end. You got to go to the what? The next level. And that's not the end. Because once you get to this point, you get the understanding, now you go to the what? And if you're not going up and growing and developing, then you're dying. What does this represent? Right, okay, thank you. So, inside here, see? At this point, he can think. Right? He's like, right? And then as he applies what he learns, he's got understanding, now he moves into knowledge, and he tries to apply it. Every teenager goes through this. It's like, oh shit, didn't work so good. Most of your mistakes you made, big ones, were when you were what? Teenagers, right? Because you had this concept of what life was, and it wasn't like that at all. Yes? So that's why he looks like that. Right? Average teenage posture, shit. Right? Then, as he goes through the wisdom and finally gets understanding, bang. You see that? So you're, again, not only are you getting closer, the knowledge continues to what? To grow. Does that help? That's the difference. This is the Eastern concept. Not Easter, Eastern, right? We're not talking about a bunny rabbit here. That's fertility goddess. But anyway, this is the growth. Bigger, bigger, closer, closer, right? Does that bless you? Right? So now you understand. People, and I always get kicked out. People go, now I understand. You ready for the next group? No, I'm fine right where I'm at. I need to go any further. Whoa. But that happens. People get knowledge, they get wisdom, and it works for them, and then they go, okay, I understand, I don't need to go any further. Like, there's a whole bunch more. But they don't want it. They're quite happy where they're at. Ephesians 3:17 through 19. Purpose, that Christ, that's the anointing, may dwell in your hearts What is God concerned about? The heart, the soul, the mind. Dwell in your hearts by pistis, that ye being rooted and grounded, sounds like a tree. What does Isaiah talk about? The trees of what? Righteousness. It's talking about people. To where it grows so big, it gives shade, gives protection, and everything is, and gives everything it needs. Rooted and grounded in agape, may be able to comprehend, again we're talking comprehend, understand, with all saints what is the breadth and length and depth and height, and to know, that's gnosko, the agape of Christ, which passes what? Surpasses, goes beyond knowledge. That, what are we talking about? Pistis, growth, development. It's really sad when you meet someone who is 30 years old and they still think and act like a 6-year-old. Is that a problem? You feel sad for them? Which surpasses knowledge, that you might be filled with all the fullness of who? Ah, 1, 2, 3. Ah. That's the end goal. Sound like exciting? How many want to be a part of that? Yeah. And the crowd goes wild. That's the true way of life. You've just learned what worship and service is. So when you see them in the Bible, you'll know the difference. And if you're the ones that are doing God's Word, and you're the ones that are being like the Eastern man in a Western society, you will excel above all others. Everybody will go to you. Sound like a great future? Okay, ready? If you're doing it and no one else is doing it, that makes you number one on God's list. If he looks at the earth, he sees you. Because everybody else is just blowing kisses to him. They say his name once in a while. God sees you. That makes you God's what?
Best.
Best. God bless you.